Thanks everyone for coming back. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who you all saw with her wonderful dance moves earlier yesterday. Teresa Knott is President-elect of the Medical Library Association. She serves as the director of the Tompkins-McCaw Library for the Health Sciences and Associate University Librarian for ECU Libraries at Virginia Commonwealth University. So please join me in welcoming Teresa.
Hello. We should have done a mic check first. Gives everybody time to get in the room. Thank you. So good morning. Thank you for inviting me to give the MLA update. It's always nice to do that in your own chapter. I actually think it was very nice of the planning committee to choose a room that matches the MLA colors. And one of the most important things that MJ Chewy taught me was you should dress to coordinate with your presentation. So here we go. It's been a really wild and crazy, exciting year in MLA. We kicked the year off by hiring a new executive director, Kevin Balliozzi. It took me a little while to learn how to say Balliozzi. So before you meet Kevin, you can practice Balliozzi. In addition, after hiring Kevin, the MLA board engaged in a very intense strategic planning process and developed 5 new strategic goals. And with this, we did away with the prior practice of each year the president-elect developing new goals for the year, because we decided it was important that the institution, the organization, has long-term goals that may adjust in terms of priorities, but that they're set. That you don't temporarily say, oh, we're going to focus on this or we're going to focus on that. So, in terms of the new goals, what the board looked at was these 5 things. What does MLA do? What can we do to attract and engage new professionals and to become their organization home? How can we strengthen MLA's education program, processes, make it better? We looked at rationalizing and improving technology. Many of you have seen the new MLA net, and we'll certainly talk about that. And in May, the board added a 5th goal on research engagement. So we're going to look at these strategic goals and spend more time on some of the others. In the institution, it's funny, in educational settings, you get so used to having the screen where you can see it here, it's like, oh, I have to go over here to see what slides are up. So in terms of audience definition, we really, in advance of doing MLA net, tried to define who our audiences are, whether that audience is members, advertisers, vendors, the public who come to our website to look for quality health information, our connections, hospital administrators, and tried to determine exactly what those buckets are, so to speak. We also wanted to help improve the value of sections and SIGs and made sure that they were in line with what MLA overall was doing. Although the funny thing is we did away with having sections and SIGs peg their yearly goals to what MLA's annual goals were. We have tried to look at the annual meeting, and I think you got it. Anybody who has submitted a paper or poster has seen that the process is a little different this year. We're trying to make sure that when we have face-to-face time or when there's time online, this is of high value and there's a good return on investment for the user. We have also tried to look at MLA publications and rationalize them and make sure that they are serving the purpose that they are intended to serve, that they're still necessary. And really essentially, are they doing what they need to do? Are they communicating as they should communicate to the membership? We also took a look at international priorities. We'll talk a little more about that. But looking at our involvement in Librarians Without Borders, IFLA, how we serve or don't serve our international members or an international audience. And lastly, we've looked at governance, which is always everybody's favorite. It's like, oh, let's talk about bylaws. And everybody's like, I think I'll do that. But trying to change the bylaws to make them more streamlined to help the organization function more effectively. So today I'm really going to focus on 3 things: the MLA sections and SIGs, the annual meeting activity, and governance. So one of the things, I actually am the board liaison to the Strategic Priorities Task Force, which is being led by Kathy Stimmer from Minto. Say that 3 times fast. But one of the things that we realized is that nowhere within our procedural manuals, the bylaws, the rules of order, were sections defined. What is a section and what is a SIG? So we kicked some of this discussion off by having an open forum at MLA in Austin. We got a lot of feedback. People were happy when they realized that the goal was not to do away with sections. But one of the things that we feel like we've done in terms of not having presidential priorities is allow the sections to decide what their priorities are, what goals do they want to accomplish, and how can they serve their members, how do they align with MLA. So after Austin, the MLA staff spent a lot of time talking to a lot of section leaders as we moved into the MLA Net, which allowed us to create communities where you can have conversations within your community. You can share things outside your community. You can keep documents there. You can have blogs, you can have forums, and trying to create a more robust experience around sections and SIGs. And importantly, to make things easier to manage, having been a section chair and having the person who's edited our section websites right here in front, Brenda, it can be quite challenging to maintain all the different section websites and the listservs and things. So to bring them all under the same umbrella of the new MLA Net, we think offers great opportunities to make it easier to keep them up, keep them relevant. And it also gives us the opportunity for the MLA staff to provide good help. Because when you're sitting off on WordPress on another platform, if you have problems, you need to find a WordPress expert. Whereas if you have a problem now, you can contact the MLA staff and they'll help you with it. In terms of annual meeting activities, we did away with section programming in some way. Basically, sending out an open call where people can submit what they're doing and say, it can be a paper, it can be a poster, it can be a lightning round. And I only want it to be a paper. If it's not accepted as a paper, I don't want to do it. But we felt like this gives us the opportunity to present the best programming from our members to our members. And so we're experimenting with this day. Something like that. One of the things that we're also experimenting with the 2016 meeting is that we are combining the business meeting into a single business meeting. But that leaves, I think we gained 3.5 hours of programming time by doing that. We're also going to combine the parties into a single party. So if you used to go to the awards luncheon and the closing reception, if you were invited to the president's reception, that's all going to be one big party and it'll be included in the inclusive registration. I like this crowd. I did this in New York on Wednesday night. Thursday. I don't think I got any applause for this. So one of the big things that we're working right now is looking at the bylaws. And as an organization in a rapidly changing environment, one of our biggest challenges, and in fact, it takes 18 months to change bylaws. So you can't just say, oh, well, we're gonna go in this direction because the bylaws say we're gonna do this, and there is this huge process of going through and changing them. So right now, the bylaws committee is doing a lot of work. So anybody who thought the bylaws committee was easy this year, not so much. The committee will forward recommendations to the board. They will send a motion to the board at our November 17th meeting. At that point, we will vote on them. They're also looking at the standing rules of order. And the intent is to move a lot of things that are procedural into procedure manuals for the national organization, for the chapters, for the sections, and to take some of the details out. Like the MLA net editor is in the bylaws, but we no longer have an MLA net editor. There was a time and a place where that was important, but we're kind of done with that. So we're violating our bylaws by not. We also, with the decision to do away with presidential priorities, are allowing, as I said, sections, but also chapters to set their own goals for their organizations to achieve what the membership wants to achieve, as opposed to tying it to the MLA national organization. Although we hope you will look at strategic priorities. So the board will review these in November. We will vote on them. Then there will be public discussions about them. We'll put them up in the forums on MLA.net. We'll talk there. There will be an open forum at MLA 2016. And after that, then all members will have the opportunity to vote on the bylaws. They'll go out in a ballot with a yes or no. The special rules of order will be voted on at MLA 2016. If the membership there passes those special rules of order, they go into effect immediately. The bylaws vote, bylaws are always so complicated. So the bylaws vote, if the membership votes yes to the bylaws changes, those changes go into effect January of 2017. So there's time for buyer's rules like this. That's that. We've also spent a lot of time looking at education, and somebody in the MAP chapter has led a task force on re-examining the MLA priorities for education, the competency, and that is Paula Ruben. I'm sorry, Paula's not here because I'm sure she'd answer lots of questions, but there are a lot of Maryland people who could give you Paula's email address. So this too prompted a open forum at MLA 2015 in Austin. And the Professional Competencies Task Force also sent out a survey which 440 people responded to, which, yay, thank you if you did that, because that helps us inform where we should be going. And here again, we try to look at audience. Who are we teaching? What are we teaching? When are we teaching it? And we are trying to build a more coherent program where if you were going to do data specialization, you can sequentially take classes, but also focusing on what do new librarians need to know, what do mid-career librarians need to know, what kind of specialization. Because to some extent now, the MLA-CE program is driven by instructors, and somebody asked me to teach a class, so I'm going to teach a class, and there's not necessarily really a curriculum involved. And so we're trying to move to at least a matrix of these things could appeal to early career librarians, these could appeal to later career librarians, and bring some structure into that. This spring, we will look at and purchase a new learning management system as a platform to do this on, as well as a content learning management system, so it's LMS and CLMS, and try to provide that as a platform for development and presentation of classes. We also hope whichever of these systems we choose will also track your CE. So right now, I think at a point in my career at MLA, you could contact headquarters and they could say, oh, You took these MLAC courses. Well, with webinars and now, it's pretty loosey-goosey. You can print out your own certificate and say, yes, I did it. And there will be a stronger management component on that. The intention is also to open the content learning management system to instructors across MLA. We have amazing, competent, capable instructors who teach on a wide variety of things, and to bring them onto that platform. And we will certainly do some testing with it, with trial, pilot, instruction, hopefully bring that up when we bring the system up. So the other thing that MLA has done, we are investing in education by hiring a new director for education. This is Barry Grant. Barry has his PhD in counseling psychology. Are there any psychologists in here? Any psychology majors? So when I saw this picture, I'm like, it's such a psychologist professorial pose. It's not like just a comment. So Barry will be working with any of our committees that have an education component, whether that's continuing education, credentialing, the annual meeting. And he comes to us from North Central University, where he essentially headed up the online education program. And actually, I'm going to read my notes more closely for this because I haven't had the opportunity to meet Barry. He started September 28th. But as I said, he has a doctorate in counseling psychology from Northwestern University. He's been an instructor for college and university students. He's developed a curriculum, done instructional design, instructor development. He has also been an administrator, so he brings a really nice skill set to MLA. He taught gifted and talented students. He's counseled students. He's co-written a written curriculum. And he's been in charge of online learning environment. So everybody I know who's met him has been very impressed with him. So I think that he will help bring more rigor to the organization that we can look forward to. And he's very excited to train MLA. One of the other key areas that we looked at was technology. When the board originally met in February for the first time with Kevin, MLA put up this diagram of systems that horrified me. So with Socius, our new MLA platform, it replaces like 8 to 12 systems. So membership was on one cubby hole, and there were all these little pieces that were open. But the thing that horrified me the most is that MLA staff didn't even have a common calendar without calling around and checking with people. So they actually moved to Google Apps, which you guys probably didn't know or see, but it certainly made communicating with headquarters a lot easier. How many of you have logged on and seen the new MLA yet? Yeah. So there was a lot of work to bring that forward. I think between the sections and MLA staff really looked at assessing the current website and saying, okay, this is relevant, it's current. This is relevant, but it's not current, it hasn't been updated for 15 years. Either it goes off or it gets updated. These are things that should be archived. We don't want to get rid of them, but they're going in another bucket. So it is also designed to be audience specific. I talked earlier about audience definition, and where you can say, oh, hospital administrator, there's this great website that has information on the value of hospital librarianship, although usually you would take that information and share with them. But if they happen to go searching, they would find that there are places for the public that are clearly marked if you're a member of the public looking for it. One of the other nice things is that sections and SIGs have the opportunity of saying, this is a private conversation amongst us. This is a conversation we would like to share with the graders. So I always think CAFIS is such a great example of that because CAFIS is so focused on consumer health information. So I don't know if more than any other section they may want to publicly share information, but it's a nice option. The new MLA net combined 50 websites, 120 separate listservs, So now if you have a listserv, you can also look at it on a forum, or you can have it emailed to you. Either way, that's up to you. You get to do some customization of it that was never possible before. And I think that we cut down from 1,500 HTML pages, and I'm not sure what the count is. But really, it was a huge collaborative effort with members and with the staff. So if you haven't seen it, that's what it looks like. I had somebody in New York who was concerned about the recent visitors. You can't hide your profile picture, but if there is no profile picture, you will never be shown there. Where it has recent visitors to the site. There are some more social things, and I think we're all learning what that means. I had somebody ask me about following. I'm like, yeah, I follow people, people follow me. I think that that may mean that you see when somebody posts to the website somewhere. So there's still a large learning curve, particularly on the member side of it. One of the other nice things is that it's a single place for people to log in, so you don't have to know your credentials to look at your section website. If your section website was behind a password, and you can go through the MLA. You have places for documents for your committees and for your sections, reports can go there. Paperwork that you would have been mailing around or sharing in Google Docs can live here too. And I always think it's funny, there's badging. It's like you can see which section somebody belongs to easily. There are online forms for scholarships and other awards as well. It integrates social media, so for the not the chapters, but for the section websites, if you're running an active Facebook feed or LinkedIn, those can also feed your page, which is nice and easy. Has anybody looked at on an iPad or a mobile phone? It's much more compatible. It has adaptable design. I'm trying to think what that word is. Responsive design. Thank you very much. So the other potential is that beginning in January, if chapters are interested, they can also move their websites and their operations to MLA. It has the option of allowing the chapters to handle their membership there, meeting registration, have communities where you can seamlessly log in. And I think MLA will be sending information out to chapter leaders about this in the next month or so. And there will be a range of things too. It doesn't cost you anything to, it costs something, but I don't know. But I think that it would help in terms of giving people, consolidating your experience with Medical Library Association's chapters. But entirely up to you. I know how many chapters, having done registration, how challenging registration for meetings is. But for that reason alone, probably too. So the last area that the board added late was we decided that research had kind of dropped out of the first 4 strategic goals that we set. And so in May, we rectified that and added it as a 5th goal. And there is a research imperative task force that's being led by Susan Lessig. They're working on a 3-year plan. And she's trying to improve research skills and competencies among our members who want to do research. Trying to grow the health information knowledge base, provide better access to the value of health sciences librarians to evidence-based practice, to our community and outside of our community, and serve as a place to advocate for this value outside. One of the things that I believe the Research Imperatives Task Force is doing is going to try to strengthen the mentoring program with people, so you can pair up with somebody who has more experience in qualitative research than you might have with quantitative research or whatever is of interest to you. Feel free to find those people. They're also working on a proposal for a research institute training, for a research training institute, which I think would be interesting. So we're looking forward to hearing more from them. It's that time of the year. I got my renewal notice last week. So you can definitely join a renew on the new MLA net. You also, for the first time, can have a third party. So for the first time, you can actually hand your inputs for MLA over and have somebody else pay it without printing it and taking it to them, but you can actually forward it within the system, which is kind of nice, especially for those people that have lovely little work. You have to be an MLA member to either serve on a committee or also serve as an officer in a chapter. So just remember that. And most importantly, tomorrow at the last session, at the last minute, to entice you all to stay, the local assistance committee will be raffling off or having a drawing for a free MLA membership for next year with the association. So you have to stay to the last minute, you have to be present to it. That wasn't my doing. I'm happy to have you here. I will also remind you that right now we're accepting volunteers for committees. And since I'm the one who appoints committees this year, please volunteer. Talk to me about it if you're interested. I'll be around. And this is National Method Librarians Month. Anybody doing any celebrating? Anybody doing anything in the library? Or should we just go drink afterwards and celebrate it amongst ourselves? So if you are interested in materials at the booth, we have the folded poster for the RU risk taker. And there is also material on the website where you can use to promote National Method Librarians Month. So I would also invite you to attend our joint meeting next year in Toronto, Canada, with the Canadian Health Science Library Association. I will save you from my atrocious French pronunciation and not give you the second part of their name in French. We will be joined by the International Clinical Librarians Conference as well. So this should be a lot of fun. I hope you'll join us. They've announced the keynote speaker, the John P. Gunn lecturer, Betty Baker, who is a physician who works as an epidemiologist. He published a best-selling book called Bad Science, Quacks, Hacks, and Big Pharma Flex. All right. So I hope you'll be able to join us. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Hi, Teresa, thanks for the update. I just wanted to make a comment about the annual meeting. And if you want to reverse the slide back, that would be good.
And Ann is one of the program chairs.
Yes, I'm a co-chair of the meeting along with my colleague Jeff Mason from CHLA. And I just wanted to note that the changes that are being made in the annual meeting is really great to hear the enthusiasm for those changes. And I just want to thank the work of chapters like Matt, because we looked at chapters for the components of the meeting that members really like. So
Yes.
So Matt has great meetings, and we look to Matt and other chapters for those.
To try to improve, she said, you didn't hear that you look at chapters.
Come to Toronto.
Yes. Because then we looked at chapters to see what works best in chapters and try to do it up to the national. And we fully expect that, at least in terms of program submission, we will continue the same approach in 2017 in Seattle. There was another question. Thank you.
Just a comment to echo Ian's, I had great work, and I think the changes are well overdue to gain 3 hours of program time is terrific. And it's just, I mean, it's great to network, but to have that content time is really great.
Pass out. Anything else? If not, yes.
So the learning management system, how will that integrate, or will it integrate with the places that are talking like the art labs?
So that is, it's like there's this huge long script, and it's like, oh, do I forget anything? I did forget the RMLs, which I should have, but But I think there is intention to partner with the RMLs because so much C is taught by RMLs and to simplify the MLA credit for that. But I think there's also the option of bringing it onto that platform. But don't hold me on that. So I think that's true. And, yeah.
Teresa, I spoke to Barry about that, and they actually had no idea that we had our own LMS and handled our own registrations. But now that they're alerted to that, they will be.
Trying to integrate.
And, well, yes, and I said we would be happy to work with them as long as there's not a cost. So,
Yeah.
so he went. But they are working with, they will be working with the RMLs.
Yeah. I think it was quite educational for Kevin with the first board meeting in terms of, I think from his experience with previous associations, the association owns the content. That's like, what do you mean the instructors own the content? It's like, well, that's kind of how we roll. So I think that there is some paradigm shifting going on there. But I think that it's very important to continue to partner. So then back to you. Yeah.
So I was just not expecting you to go into a lot of detail, but just one of the slides was talking about how you're going to advocate for different kinds of libraries. And I just wanted to know if you could just share a few ideas about how you would advocate for hospital libraries.
I think that, so I'll tell you my bias. What I've heard afterwards. My bias is that external people cannot advocate for you in your own organization. That you have to do your job, do it well, build connections, build relationships. But what we as an organization can do is provide you with tools and data, some approaches to proving your value or taking deeper. And I think it is a challenge because you might end up with continuing education. I mean, I know a lot of hospitals that have that. And sometimes it is taking on new roles that you may not be comfortable with. But what works at Nova Fairfax may not work at Summa Health and Akron. So you as the expert on the ground have a better idea of what might be effective. I mean, you may be able to have coaching, pair you up with a mentor who has successfully grown a hospital library program. I think that we can provide those opportunities and those resources. And I think that there's definitely the opportunity to try to publicize things. There has been talk about trying to publish in journals that hospital administrators read. Because if it's in the medical literature, if it's in the health science library literature, that's not where they look. So if we can work to identify good studies, good topics, where we could create a group of people at MLA and the members, essentially, I mean, headquarters can't do that necessarily. But to write a definitive article that could get accepted in the Journal of Hospital Administration. And then you can go and say, hey, look, I think that would be for sure. But I also would be happy to have any ideas that you would like to share. Yeah, I mean, because I think it's a challenge. That return on investment is really important. Are we out of time? Just gonna keep going. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. A few quick logistics as we move into our next section programming. It's time for posters. Perhaps we notice there are posters around. So if you have a poster, please make your way over. That's going to happen until about noon, in which case food lunch will start to be served here, and then the hospital librarian's luncheon will be in Soy Vescent, which is by the cow. So there's that. There's also been some questions about round tables. What's going on with that this year? So we have a subject RAC, the Research and Assessment Committee table. Where would you like that table to be, Wanda? There, look for the sign if you want to sit with the RAC group and talk about research. Otherwise, today's roundtable discussions is just inspiration. So we're eating lunch at tables that are round. Please join us. The other, if you have not yet gotten your giveaways, please come up to the top. It's at to the top of the room. It's a screen cloth or glasses and a magnet. He's coming up. And enjoy the posters. Thank you.